7 a.m. As the sun begins to peek through the trees, the riders put on their game faces. No more idle chatter, no more smiles, just the cold, hard stares of concentration. Unsure of exactly what they will face, they must trust that all of their training and dedication will see them through one of the toughest hard enduro races in the world.
For more than 40 years, the Roof of Africa was a flat-out burn of 1,000 kilometers in 2 days of racing. For years, the competitors traveled by both bike and by truck on dirt roads littered with taxis and buses on their way through the mountainous terrain.
The Roof of Africa is, in one sentence, it's a massive hard enduro.
It's a very old race. It's been around for many years. It's a very special race. You know, it's once a year we all the South Africa's best enduro riders get together.
Lesotho is a really, really beautiful place. It's incredibly barren, and once you get up in the mountains, it's very, very remote. I guess it seems more remote than it is at times, because last year, I thought I was in the absolute middle of nowhere. Bike was boiling, I was falling over, I was that fatigued, and 3 schoolgirls walked across the track in front of me on their way to, I have no idea where. I didn't think there was another person for 100 kilometers.
Of course, all the top guys have come out here, and they've made the route just so much harder this year. I think there's about 70% new stuff this year, and none of us have ridden it, so we're kind of like all in the same boat, which is really nice.
The Roof's a very difficult place. You think you've got it sussed, and before you know it, you're on your face. So it's a very good race, and teaches you a lot, I think.
Fitness will be even more important this year. While the rocky natural conditions make Lesotho a dirt biker's dream, Thorne and his crew have worked hard to ensure that the competitors will be in for a rude awakening.
We've introduced a couple of new passes, some very, let's say, virgin terrain for off-road bikers. And the whole idea really has been to try and get spectators as much involved as possible. Preparations have been good, and we're looking forward.
And believe me, it will be the toughest ever roof before.
The first part of the Roof of Africa began with qualifying. After yesterday's time trial stage, Germany's Andreas Lettenbichler charged his way to the finish line. Unfortunately, he missed a crucial checkpoint and was penalized for his navigational error. The South African Jade Goodsite rode smart and posted the fastest time for the day. But right behind him is the reigning champion, Chris Birch from New Zealand, and a host of local riders hungry for the podium. And now it's time for the main event. 2 days of hell and glory on a dirt bike. Having the honors on day 1, Jade Goodsite hits the Roma Bridge river crossing first. But with less than a minute head start, Chris Birch is already closing in. Even though the finish line is roughly 220 kilometers away, the Kiwi wastes no time in letting Jade know that he's in for a fight. Another group isn't far behind, as South Africans Daryl Curtis and Lawrence Mahoney hit the river, following fresh tracks from the leaders. "30 minutes and 30 kilometers into the race, the two leaders are swapping the lead as they make their way up Bushman's Pass. From above, you can see everything. It doesn't look so bad. But from ground level, the only things the riders can see are massive rocks and brush so dense that they block out the sun.
The South Africans weren't kidding. There are rocks, rocks, and more rocks. There's a reason why Bushman's Pass has never been ridden before. This will be a defining section of day one. Birch and Jade throw everything but the kitchen sink at this hill. If the leaders are getting this much help, what does that mean for everyone else? Daryl Curtis is next, and he wastes no time in employing some help. And then some more. But no help can save you when your engine overheats. Daryl's KTM begins to bellow with steam. And here comes Rory Mead, sensing the South African in trouble. Somehow the dark horse gets by Curtis and moves into third place. The Kiwis have come to fight. Three-time champion Lawrence Mahoney and friends now arrive at the pass. The track workers are definitely earning their keep today. And while all of this is going on, Letty is still at the starting line. When you're in 105th place, you don't get one of the prime starting positions. You get to wait. By the time Letty gets on the course, he is 45 minutes behind the leaders. He swiftly arrives at Bushman's Pass and wastes no time on this hill. The Bavarian machine needs to kick it up a notch. Bella Como Pass is next. Also known as the Welcome Pass, the competitors are feeling anything but welcome. More than half of the field will see their race end right here. The leaders now pass through Sedibeng. Birch maintains the top spot and is putting some distance between himself and his pursuers. Now Jade, Mahoney, Mead, and Curtis wage their own battles amongst themselves. Someone has broken free from the mid-pack riders. It's Letty. After starting out of the top 100, he has nearly erased his massive deficit. The machine is on the hunt. As Birch begins his ascent at Pigs Pass, he continues to pad his lead. While the heavy foliage and rocks make it problematic to navigate through such a narrow path, his seemingly effortless riding makes it look like he's on cruise control on the open highway. The rest of the leaderboard, however, begins to shuffle around. Amidst the chaos of tow ropes and on-the-fly help, Jade has been usurped by Mead and Mahoney, falling back to 4th place. Curtis has also been passed by Shannon Frost, putting him back in 6th. Your eyes do not deceive you. That is Letty. He is now in 7th place, and he's not stopping there. Entering the Makalang Valley, Birch is all by himself. He has done a masterful job at navigating his way through this unrelenting malaise. While his lead is secure for now, behind him, things have gotten very interesting. Letty now has command of 2nd place. He has vanquished everyone and everything in his path. Now he sets his sights on the Kiwi. It's officially a brawl for third place as Meade, Jade, and Curtis trade punches and positions throughout the Makaleng Valley Loop, the remotest area of the course. The crowd at the finish line is getting restless. By earlier estimations, the leaders should have been here an hour ago. But the muffled conversation is soon interrupted by the sound of an engine. Finally, after nearly 9.5 hours on the bike, Chris Birch reaches the finish at Ramabanta.
Come on, Chris, how was it? Just tell us, quick.
Speak the truth, Chris. Only the truth.
So much harder than last year. Just didn't lead up the whole way through. I'm completely gone. Couldn't even really navigate anymore, just couldn't think.
Letty crosses the finish line in second. He is quite the conquering hero today. Any signs of his earlier dissatisfaction are now gone.
Yeah, it was fun today. It was a hard day today, so I'm happy.
In spite of starting the day 45 minutes behind the leaders, he blew by nearly everyone in his path and made up 10 minutes of race time on Chris Birch. The rest of the leaders soon trickle in, with Meade, Jade, and Curtis arriving in quick succession. One thing is for sure, they are glad this day is over.
Yeah, I'm buggered, man.
How does it feel to be the first South African, though?
Feels like kissing my sister.
Including Kyle Redmond, only 7 riders would officially finish the race today. With the rigors of day 1 still lingering, the riders prepare for the final battle. Resigned to the fact that this year has been more difficult than the last, their mental conditioning is almost as important as their physical. Chris Birch will start today just like he spent much of yesterday, alone. Once the Kiwi blazes out of sight, he'll have the course to himself for more than a half hour until the next rider is given the go-ahead. He will soon find out whether this is a reward or a curse. Andreas Lettenbichler has never been more ready, and he'd better be, as he'll need to ride harder than he's ever ridden if he is going to erase Chris Birch's 35-minute advantage. The race is underway. What about Birch, you ask? Well, no one is exactly sure where he is.
Unfortunately, his 35-minute head start has turned out to be a curse. He made a wrong turn shortly after the start. By the time he figured out his mistake, he was way off course. However, race officials accepted responsibility for his miscue and allowed him to restart from Roma with no penalty. A huge break for the defending champion. Up ahead, there continues to be a revolving door around the front position as Letty and Rory Meade battle it out.
Letty arrives at Ramabanta first. With a third of the day's race now behind him, he gets some interesting news.
You're going to be at the front now, so it's basically up to you to set the pace, eh?
I'm at the front now. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Right behind the German is the other Kiwi, Rory Meade, and USA's hopeful, Kyle Redmond.
He's basically restarted.
They also learn that Birch had to restart. Maybe this will breathe some extra life into their race. Birch finally arrives at Ramabanta. just a tad bit behind schedule. While he's certainly annoyed at the early race snafu, he's grateful to still have the lead and will stick to his game plan. All right, time now for Chris to hammer down and chase the leaders, something Birch is not familiar with at this race. Heading down the Baboons Pass, it's Letty once again who arrives first. He continues to have two rivals right on his tail, but this time it's number 4 Kenny Gilbert and the Russell Crowe of Extreme Enduro, Jade Goodsite. Mead now looks to make up some lost time. After a small river crossing, it's back up into the hills. Letty is still the man out front, but Jade seems to have finally gotten his bearings and is now in second, while Mead is third. And it was only a matter of time before the champ reinserted himself into the equation. Chris Birch is back. They call it Big Dick Pass. You can take that to mean anything you'd like. But the race organizers only had one thing in mind when they put it on the map. It's going to take a heck of a man to conquer it. Letty is first, and he dives right in. Jade is next, followed by Rory Mead. Like a bad hangover, he just won't go away. And as the rest of the field begins their descent, it becomes readily apparent that Big Dick Pass is no joke.
Absolutely insane. I don't even think a bike's ever been down here before. That's crazy, man.
It's not long before the leaders arrive to scale Two Tit Mountain. In a surprise, the first man we see is Jade, not Letty. Rory Mead arrives next, followed by the two-time champ Daryl Curtis. Both are in close pursuit of the Enduro Gladiator. But much like Jade, their energy level is waning.
That rock face, keep it to the left on the top. It's really steep, okay? All right. It's 15 k's to home.
There's tired, there's fatigued, and then there's Letty. After getting lost yet again, he has expended most of his stamina just to get back on course. His bike is leaking oil on top of that. After enduring setback after setback in this race, one must ponder just how much one man can take. While his chances of winning are in question, this is a man fueled by pride and emotion. The word quit is not in his vocabulary. Birch is also regaining his bearings after getting a bit turned around, but the Kiwi has a race to win. It's 15 kilometers to glory. Music Box Pass is the last major roadblock between the riders and the finish. But once again, we have a new leader. After Jade is sidetracked by a minor bike chain problem, Mead retakes command of the race, and he proceeds without fear. Jade, however, is able to repair his bike quickly. He's not about to let Mead run away from him. Birch is able to get around some riders who were looking for the correct route. He can smell the finish now. Letty is right behind him, coaxing his bike along. He's hoping it will be the little engine that could. But just when it looks like Letty is back on track, the wheels come off yet again. A broken casing causes an oil leak, and his bike won't go any further. There will be no fixing it this time. Just 5 kilometers from the finish, Andreas Lettenbichler is out of the race. The finish line is finally within reach. Mead charges harder than he has all day. But his overzealous riding results in him missing a turn and almost going off a cliff. Jade takes advantage and darts ahead. After battling tooth and nail all day long, it's time to open the throttle and go for broke. Desperation time for Mead, chasing the South African in a trail of dust. At the finish line, the crowd spots a rider approaching. It's Jade. The South African arrives to a hero's welcome. After finishing the toughest race of his life, 2 days of anger and gnashing of teeth for Jade Goodsite are quickly forgotten. Less than a minute later, Rory Mead, the Kiwi rookie, takes the checkered flag, and the first person to congratulate him is Jade. The camaraderie among extreme enduro riders trumps any lone wolf mentality out on the course, even when a rival needs a helping hand. Jade's hot finish puts him on the podium, but in third, not second. In spite of Mead's missed turn near the end, he beats Jade by the slimmest of margins, 13 seconds. Now that second and third place have been decided, it's time for the champion to claim his crown. After a start that nearly turned his day into a disaster, Chris Birch wins the Roof of Africa for the second year in a row. 26 riders in all would finish the 42nd running of the Roof of Africa. And each one of them would agree that this was the toughest edition yet.
Good. I think that's over.
But that is what makes finishing a race like this so gratifying. Where an average man wouldn't dare take his dirt bike through such menacing terrain, these riders not only do it, but do it with fervor. That's because these are not average men. They are extraordinary. And while a championship is great, they don't need a trophy to prove they are winners.